There comes a moment when you realize that you have spent too much of your life thinking about how you are seen by others. You think about what they will say. You think about whether they will approve. You think about whether they will understand your decisions. And slowly, without noticing, you begin to live a life that is not truly yours. You become careful with your words, careful with your choices, careful with your dreams. Not because you do not know what you want, but because you are afraid of how other people might react when you choose it. But ask yourself something very honestly. How much of your life are you willing to sacrifice just to be understood by people who may never understand you? The moment you stop needing everyone to approve of you, something changes inside. You become quieter, not because you have nothing to say, but because you no longer feel the need to explain everything. You become stronger, not because nobody criticizes you, but because criticism no longer controls your direction. And you become peaceful, not because everyone suddenly respects you, agrees with you, or treats you perfectly, but because you finally understand that their opinions belong to them, your life belongs to you. You cannot control what people think about you. You cannot control what they say when you walk away. You cannot control whether they misunderstand your intentions. But you can control what you give your attention to. You can control your reaction. You can control whether you allow someone else's judgment to disturb your inner world. This is where self-mastery begins. It begins when you stop fighting battles that exist only inside your mind. Maybe someone does not like you. Let them. Maybe someone misunderstands you. Let them. Maybe someone thinks you are not capable. Let them think. You do not need to carry every opinion you encounter. Some opinions are simply noise. And the more you listen to noise, the harder it becomes to hear your own direction. Your peace is valuable. Your attention is valuable. Your energy is valuable. So stop giving these things away so easily. You do not need to prove that you are good. You do not need to prove that you are strong. You do not need to prove that your path is correct. Walk your path. Improve yourself. Stay disciplined. Stay honest with yourself and let your actions speak over time. Because when you become comfortable with who you are, the world loses much of its power over you. You no longer ask, what will they think? You begin asking, is this aligned with the person I want to become? That is a completely different way of living. And perhaps the greatest freedom is not becoming someone everyone respects. It is becoming someone who no longer needs to be respected by everyone in order to respect himself. So today, begin releasing the weight of other people's opinions, not with anger, not with arrogance, but with understanding. You are not here to control how everyone sees you. You are here to master yourself. And when you master yourself, you protect something far more important than your image. You protect your peace. One of the greatest sources of inner exhaustion is the constant desire to be accepted by everyone around you. You begin to measure your choices through the eyes of other people. Before you speak, you wonder how they will react. Before you make a decision, you imagine their judgment. Before you take a new direction, you ask yourself whether they will approve. And slowly, you stop asking the most important question, what do I truly want? Seeking approval can become so subtle that you do not even recognize it as a problem. You may call it being considerate. You may call it being respectful. You may tell yourself that you simply care about what others think. But there is a difference between respecting people's opinions and allowing their opinions to control your life. When your decisions depend on approval, your freedom becomes conditional. You feel confident when people praise you, but uncertain when they criticize you. You feel strong when people support you, but weak when they question you. Your emotional state rises and falls according to reactions that you cannot control. This is not peace. Peace begins when you understand that you cannot build a stable life on unstable opinions. People change their minds. People misunderstand. People judge from their own experiences, fears, expectations, and limitations. Sometimes they criticize you because they genuinely see something you cannot see. Sometimes they criticize you because your choices challenge what they believe is possible. And sometimes they simply criticize because criticism is easier than understanding. You must learn to distinguish between useful feedback and unnecessary judgment. Listen when you can learn. Remain silent when there is nothing to learn. You do not need to reject every opinion. You simply need to stop carrying every opinion. There is tremendous strength in being able to hear someone disagree with you without immediately feeling the need to defend yourself. You can listen without surrendering your direction. You can accept that someone sees life differently without believing that you must change yourself to make them comfortable. This is where self-mastery becomes practical. Imagine waking up and no longer needing to impress anyone. You still work hard, but you work because discipline matters to you. You still improve yourself, but not because you need applause. You still pursue your goals, but not because you need people to recognize your potential. You begin doing things because they are meaningful, not because they are visible. That shift changes everything. You stop performing. You stop explaining every decision. You stop checking whether people approve of your progress. And you become more present in your own life. Of course, this does not mean becoming careless or selfish. It does not mean ignoring people who genuinely care about you. It means developing the wisdom to know whose voice deserves a place in your mind. Not every person has earned the authority to define you. Not every comment deserves a response. Not every misunderstanding requires an explanation. Sometimes the most powerful response is simply to continue walking. When you know your values, your direction becomes clearer. When your direction becomes clearer, outside noise becomes less powerful. You no longer need to convince everyone that you are on the right path. Your consistency becomes your answer. Let people misunderstand you if they choose to. Let them question you. Let them doubt you. Your responsibility is not to control their perception. Your responsibility is to control your character. Ask yourself each day, am I making this decision because it is right for me, or because I am afraid of disappointing someone? That question can reveal how much of your life has been shaped by fear of judgment. And when you begin answering honestly, you begin taking your life back. You realize that approval feels good, but self-respect is deeper. Praise can disappear, attention can disappear, people can leave, opinions can change. But when you learn to stand firmly within yourself, you carry something that does not depend on anyone else's permission. The quiet certainty that you are willing to live according to your values, even when nobody is watching. The greatest form of strength is not controlling what happens around you. It is learning to control what happens within you. Life will always bring situations you did not expect. Someone will disappoint you. Someone will misunderstand you. Someone will speak to you without respect. Plans will fail. Opportunities will disappear. People will change. And sometimes, despite your best efforts, things simply will not go the way you wanted. You cannot prevent all of these things, but you can decide what you do with them. This is where true self-mastery begins. Most people believe strength means reacting quickly. They think being powerful means having the final word, defending themselves immediately, or showing others that they cannot be treated badly. But often, the strongest person in the room is the one who does not need to react at all. A reaction is easy. Awareness is difficult. When something triggers you, there is a moment between what happens and what you do next. That moment may be very small, but it contains your freedom. Someone says something hurtful. You feel anger. Your mind immediately wants to respond. But you pause, you breathe, you observe what is happening inside you. And instead of allowing anger to choose your words, you choose your words consciously. That is strength. You are not suppressing your emotions. You are learning to understand them. There is a difference between controlling your emotions, and becoming controlled by them. Your emotions are information, but they should not always be your commander. Anger may tell you that something crossed a boundary. Fear may tell you that something feels uncertain. Sadness may tell you that something mattered deeply. But feeling something does not mean you must immediately act from that feeling. You can feel anger without becoming anger. You can feel fear without allowing fear to decide your future. You can feel disappointment without allowing disappointment to destroy your discipline. This is how you begin mastering your inner world. The world becomes easier to navigate when your internal state is not constantly controlled by external events. If someone's approval makes you feel valuable, they have influence over your self-worth. If someone's criticism destroys your confidence, they have influence over your identity. If someone's behavior determines whether you have peace, they have influence over your mind. But when you learn to stand within yourself, that influence becomes smaller. You begin to understand that another person's behavior is not a measurement of your value. Their opinion is not your identity. Their anger is not your responsibility. Their misunderstanding does not become your truth. This does not mean you ignore reality. It means you stop allowing reality to control your entire emotional state. You begin choosing your response instead of surrendering it. And this requires practice. You will still become angry. You will still become disappointed. You will still have moments when your emotions become intense. Self-mastery does not mean becoming emotionless. It means becoming conscious. Before you respond, ask yourself, will this reaction bring me closer to the person I want to become? If the answer is no, pause. You do not have to answer immediately. You do not have to send the message immediately. You do not have to defend yourself immediately. You do not have to make a permanent decision from a temporary emotion. Sometimes silence gives you the space necessary to see clearly. Sometimes walking away gives you the distance necessary to regain your balance. Sometimes doing nothing is not weakness. It is discipline. The more you practice this, the more difficult it becomes for external chaos to disturb your inner world. You begin carrying your own calm with you. You can enter a difficult conversation without losing yourself. You can receive criticism without collapsing. You can experience rejection without questioning your entire worth. You can face uncertainty without abandoning your direction. This is what it means to master yourself. You cannot control every person. You cannot control every circumstance. You cannot control the past. You cannot guarantee the future, but you can train the mind that experiences all of it. And when your mind becomes steady, you no longer need the world to become peaceful before you can experience peace. You create that stability within yourself, one conscious breath, one disciplined response, and one deliberate choice at a time. Your energy is one of the most valuable things you possess, yet most people give it away without realizing it. They give it to arguments that do not matter, opinions that do not deserve attention, people who constantly create drama and situations they have no power to change. By the end of the day, they feel exhausted, not because they worked too hard, but because they spent too much of their inner energy on things that were never theirs to carry. Protecting your energy does not mean becoming cold. It does not mean avoiding everyone or refusing to care about others. It means becoming more conscious about where you place your attention, because whatever receives your attention begins to influence your inner world. If you constantly think about what someone said about you, you are giving them space in your mind. If you repeatedly replay an argument, you are allowing the argument to continue long after it has ended. If you constantly check whether someone approves of you, you are allowing their opinion to determine your emotional state. And if you spend your days trying to prove yourself to people who have already decided what they want to believe, you are spending precious energy on a battle that cannot be won. You must learn that not everything deserves a response. Some things deserve your attention. Some things deserve a boundary. And some things deserve nothing at all. This understanding can completely change the way you live. Imagine someone criticizes you for something that has nothing to do with your values. You could spend hours explaining yourself. You could become angry. You could try to convince them that they are wrong. Or you could simply recognize that their opinion belongs to them. You do not have to pick up every stone someone throws at you. Sometimes the wisest thing you can do is leave it where it falls. Your peace becomes stronger when you stop feeling responsible for managing everyone's perception of you. There will always be people who misunderstand you. There will always be people who talk about you. There will always be people who expect something different from you. If you try to satisfy all of them, you will eventually lose yourself. Protecting your energy means choosing your battles carefully. Not every disagreement requires a debate. Not every insult requires an answer. Not every person deserves access to your private thoughts. Not every situation deserves emotional investment. You must become selective. Ask yourself, is this worth my peace? If the answer is no, step back. This does not mean you are weak. It means you understand the value of your attention. A person who constantly reacts to everything becomes easy to disturb. Anyone can pull their attention in any direction. Anyone can create an emotional reaction with a few words. But a person who has learned to protect their energy becomes difficult to control. They pause, they observe, they choose. They understand that silence can be a boundary. Distant can be a boundary. And sometimes simply refusing to participate is the strongest boundary of all. Your energy should be invested in things that build your life. Your health, your discipline, your goals, your relationships, your learning, your character, your peace. When you stop wasting energy on unnecessary conflict, you create more space for meaningful growth. You have more focus, more patience, more clarity, more strength. This is why protecting your energy is not merely about avoiding negative people. It is also about protecting yourself from your own unnecessary habits. Stop constantly checking what others are doing. Stop comparing your progress with someone else's timeline. Stop replaying old conversations. Stop imagining future arguments. Stop trying to predict everyone's opinion. Bring your attention back to the present moment. Your life is happening here, not inside someone else's judgment, not inside yesterday's mistake, not inside tomorrow's imagined criticisms. Here, and the more you bring your attention back to yourself, the more powerful your presence becomes. You begin realizing that peace is not something other people give you. It is something you protect. You protect it by choosing what you listen to. You protect it by choosing what you respond to. You protect it by choosing who receives your time. You protect it by choosing which battles deserve your strength. The goal is not to become unreachable. The goal is to become intentional. Care deeply, but do not carry everything. Love people, but do not lose yourself in them. Listen to others, but do not abandon your own inner voice. And when something repeatedly disturbs your peace, have the courage to step away without hatred, without revenge, and without needing to explain yourself endlessly. Because the moment you understand that your attention is a form of energy, you become much more careful about where you place it, and you begin to realize that protecting your peace is one of the highest forms of respect you can give yourself. There is a quiet kind of freedom that comes when you no longer feel the need to explain yourself to everyone. You realize that not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected, not every accusation needs to be answered, and not every opinion deserves a defense. For much of your life, you may have believed that if people truly understood your intentions, they would accept your choices. So you explain more. You give reasons. You defend your decisions. You try to make people see what you see. But eventually, you discover something important. Understanding cannot always be forced. People see you through their own experiences, beliefs, expectations, and fears. Two people can witness the same action and create completely different stories about it. One person may see confidence while another sees arrogance. One may see independence while another sees distance. One may see discipline while another sees obsession. You cannot control the story someone creates inside their own mind. And this is where you must learn to let yourself be misunderstood. This does not mean you should intentionally hurt people or refuse to take responsibility for your actions. It means you stop making your peace dependent on everyone having the correct interpretation of you. If you know your intentions are honest and your actions are aligned with your values, you do not need to spend your entire life correcting every person's perception. Sometimes, the more you explain, the more trapped you become. You explain one thing, and another question comes. You answer that question, and another misunderstanding appears. Soon, you are no longer living your life. You are managing other people's opinions of your life. There is no end to that cycle. You must recognize when an explanation is useful and when it is simply an attempt to obtain approval. If you made a mistake, take responsibility. If you hurt someone, apologize. If clarification can genuinely repair something meaningful, speak with honesty. But when you have already communicated clearly and someone still chooses to misunderstand you, you do not need to keep fighting for their acceptance. Let them think what they think. Your life does not become less meaningful because someone interpreted it incorrectly. A tree does not stop growing because someone dislikes its shape. The ocean does not become smaller because someone refuses to understand its depth. And you do not need to become smaller simply because someone is uncomfortable with who you are becoming. There will be moments when your growth disappoints people who were comfortable with the old version of you. When you become more disciplined, they may call you distant. When you establish boundaries, they may call you selfish. When you stop participating in unnecessary drama, they may say you have changed. And perhaps you have changed. That is not always a problem. Growth often requires becoming someone your previous environment does not immediately recognize. You cannot spend your life remaining the same simply to keep other people comfortable. At some point, you must choose between being understood by everyone and being honest with yourself. Choose honesty, because when you constantly explain yourself, you may slowly begin changing your behavior just to prevent criticism. You start asking, will they approve? Instead of, is this right for me? That question can quietly control your entire life. Furnace strength means you can hear disagreement without immediately abandoning yourself. You can accept that someone sees you differently without needing to prove them wrong. You can walk away from a conversation knowing that your worth does not depend on winning it. This kind of silence is not weakness, it is maturity. You understand that time reveals what words cannot. Your consistency will eventually speak. Your character will eventually speak. Your actions will eventually speak. You do not have to announce your transformation to everyone. You do not have to defend every step of your journey. Keep working. Keep growing. Keep becoming more disciplined. And allow your life to communicate what your words never could. There is also freedom in accepting that some people may never understand you, no matter how carefully you explain yourself. Not everyone is meant to understand every part of your journey. Some people are only meant to cross your path for a certain period of time. You can appreciate them without allowing their opinions to control you. You can respect them without seeking their approval. You can care about them without abandoning yourself. This is the balance. You are not trying to prove that you are right. You are trying to remain true to what you know is right. And once you understand this, you stop wasting energy on endless explanations and begin investing that energy into becoming stronger, calmer, wiser, and more focused, until you finally understand that sometimes the most powerful explanation is the life you continue to live without needing everyone to understand it. There is a point in life when you realize that freedom is not about getting everyone to understand you, agree with you, or approve of your choices. Freedom begins when you stop allowing other people's expectations to determine how you live. You begin to understand that your life cannot be built around keeping everyone comfortable, because every person has a different expectation of who you should be. One person wants you to be more successful. Another wants you to stay the same. One person wants you to speak more. Another prefers your silence. Someone wants you to take risks. Someone else tells you to stay safe. If you spend your life trying to satisfy every expectation, you will eventually become disconnected from yourself. You may look successful from the outside while feeling completely lost within. Inner freedom means returning to your own values. It means asking yourself what truly matters to you when nobody is watching. What kind of person do you want to become? What principles do you want to live by? What habits do you want to build? What kind of peace do you want to protect? These questions are more important than the constant question of whether other people approve of you. When you know your values, decisions become simpler. You may still experience doubt. You may still hear criticism. You may still feel uncomfortable when someone disagrees with you. But disagreement no longer automatically means that you are wrong. You learn to listen without surrendering. You learn to consider advice without losing your direction. You learn to accept criticism without allowing it to destroy your confidence. This is what inner freedom looks like. It is not the absence of outside pressure. It is the ability to remain grounded while pressure exists. You begin to understand that you cannot control people's expectations, but you can control whether you allow those expectations to become your identity. Maybe someone expects you to remain the person you were 5 years ago, but you have grown. Maybe someone expects you to continue accepting behavior that you no longer tolerate, but you have developed boundaries. Maybe someone becomes uncomfortable because you are becoming more disciplined and focused. That discomfort belongs to them. You do not need to stop growing simply because your growth changes the relationship you have with someone. Sometimes becoming more authentic means disappointing people who benefited from your lack of boundaries. This is difficult. You may feel guilty. You may wonder whether you are being selfish. But there is a difference between selfishness and self-respect. Selfishness says, only I matter. Self-respect says, I matter too. You can care for others without abandoning yourself. You can support people without carrying their entire emotional world. You can love someone without allowing them to control your decisions. You can be kind without becoming available to everyone. This is the balance that creates inner freedom. And inner freedom requires discipline, because it is easy to return to old patterns when you feel pressure. It is easy to seek reassurance when you feel uncertain. It is easy to change yourself when someone disapproves. But every time you remain faithful to your values despite discomfort, you strengthen your relationship with yourself. You begin trusting yourself. That trust is powerful. When you trust yourself, you no longer need constant external confirmation that you are doing enough. You still listen, you still learn, you still correct your mistakes, but you no longer live for applause. Your motivation comes from within. You train because you value strength. You learn because you value wisdom. You practice discipline because you value growth. You protect your peace because you understand its importance. You become less interested in appearing successful and more interested in becoming someone you respect when you are alone with your own thoughts. That is a deeper form of success, because at the end of the day, you have to live with yourself. People may praise you today and criticize you tomorrow. Their opinions can change within minutes, but your relationship with yourself remains. So build that relationship carefully. Keep promises you make to yourself. Stand by your principles. Admit when you are wrong. Forgive yourself when you fall. Continue when things become difficult. And stop measuring your worth through the reactions of other people. You were never meant to live as a reflection of everyone else's expectations. You are meant to discover who you are through action, discipline, experience, and conscious choice. The quieter your need for approval becomes, the louder your inner clarity becomes. You stop asking, how do I make everyone happy? And you begin asking, how do I live with integrity? That question changes your life, because inner freedom is not doing whatever you want without responsibility. It is having the courage to choose what is right for you, while accepting that not everyone will understand the choice. You do not need permission to become better. You do not need applause to continue. You do not need universal approval to protect your peace. Walk your path with humility. Keep your heart open. Keep your mind disciplined. Let people have their opinions. Let life unfold without trying to control every perception. And when you finally stop living for the approval of the world, you discover that the peace you were searching for outside was waiting quietly within you all along.